So, high score is back.
I'm back, you know that I never left. I got tracks and some music that you never guessed. I don't slack, don't lose, learn your lesson yet. When I get to choose what I do, I'm like a weapon. I'm not sharp as many, but got hard. I'm ready to change scars to envy, to win large and plenty. I like to play fast, never change back. Calling out, I'll pay back, cause I'm great at that.
Um, I'm talking with my hands and I know you can't see it, but if I hit my light and my three-leaf clover spins, that's my bad. You hear it. You're probably going to hear it at some point. I'm going to hit it. I can already see it. But I'm not going to move it because then you're going to hear it anyways. So, I guess we'll kick it off with Utica University and how they're rolling into the winter break. And they're 8-2-1 going into it, with their last game being a exhibition loss to the USA Under-18 team 2-6. That is a stacked USA Under-18 team. I looked at the roster beforehand. A lot of Big Ten ACC guys. Like, there's a couple Boston College guys, Wisconsin, there was an Notre Dame guy. There is so much talent on that roster. And, it's stacked for an Under-18 team. And I'm going to say it now. They're good. But looking at Utica's season so far, outside of that, you had the exhibition win to start off the season against SUNY Potsdam. 3-4 overtime loss to Adrian on the road, and then the following night a 3-8 loss against, again, number 1 Adrian. And then you had the 2 away games at Stevenson to end their second of 2 weekend away streak. Both of them 4-3 overtime wins. Then you had the 5-2 win against Chatham on Veterans Night, and then following that was a 6-3 win against, again, Chatham. The back-to-back with Wilkes being a 6-2 win and then a 6-1 win. The Thanksgiving Showcase, where it saw Plymouth State and Trine come into town. They beat Plymouth State 5-3, tied Trine 2-2, and then went to shootout, eventually with Utica winning 1-0. Dante Zapata scoring the goal on an injured leg, because he injured it in the mid to late third period. That was a rough weekend. Dot Jackson went down. You already have Kimball and Justin down, so that was a little worrying. And then you had Dante get hurt, come back in. He went down at one point when attempting to shoot a one-timer that I think would have gone in, but that's not the point. The point is he went down. I was really worried about him. He ended up scoring the only shootout goal, and then obviously Lansley stood on his head and did his job and played really well. All he needed to do was stop the puck, and that's what he did very well that night. And then you had the win over Oswego State in the Teddy Bear Toss, number 7 Oswego State. Wow, what a game. Like, that, it was kind of like a fight. They were definitely fired up. Utica looked fired up from right there. I mean, the herd was there for a little bit, and not only that, you had with them, you get me going behind the opposing bench, and when I get going, it's very interesting. I wasn't that loud. I was kind of loud for that game. I don't know why I quieted down when the herd left, but I always need someone to set me off, and then it's like a firecracker. And then you had Utica kind of, once Mick scored that first goal, everyone breathed a sigh of relief, and then it just piled on. Number 2, number 3, and then number 4. Oh, what a night from Utica that night. The penalties seemed almost non-existent. It was more disciplined play. It seemed like the chemistry had kind of, not that it was bad, but it seemed like it was on another level that night. I mean, they still had those little mistakes, slightly. You'd see a little mistake here, a little mistake there, or a pass that just wasn't smart in hindsight here and there, but it wasn't like the first game against Potsdam where it was mistake after mistake after mistake, little but blatant. No, it was some things you really had to nitpick to be like, all right, there's a problem here and a problem here and a problem here. They looked a lot better, and you're missing Justin Allen, who is who was your assistant captain coming into the year, who got hurt against Adrian or Stevenson, one of the two, I think it was Stevenson, but according to a source that was on the 315 Hockey podcast, 315 Hockey Live podcast, my bad. It seems like Justin Allen could be back by playoffs, but Kimball Johnson might be out for the foreseeable future. You're also missing Kimball Johnson, obviously, and we don't know what. And nothing ever comes out from the programmer, Gary, obviously, so you're not going to hear anything. The best you'll hear is from, like, someone else who has insider knowledge or something. And even then, it's very limited. So, we don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. I mean, they're filling the spots so far not that bad. I mean, look at the fill-in, how you're doing with, like, your 7th and 8th defensemen stepping up with Jackson and Holmes and, like, the lower depth guys that aren't necessarily your first or second liners wouldn't have been all the time have really stepped up. And they're playing a good game. Everyone's playing a good game. I love the combination of Connor Fedoruk and Jackson Rutkowski on the line because it's like, ooh, yeah, they're kind of the same size. Jackson plays rough, and Connor can kind of play a rough game. And I like looking at it, but Connor can also get you on the score sheet. You can play a game of offense and defense. There's so much going for this Utica team right now, and I'm happy. I'm excited, but I'm also worried to see if we come in contact with Adrian, with Hobart. What are we gonna do? How are we gonna play? Are we gonna have Justin by that time? How are we gonna match up? Are we gonna play like the first game against Adrian? Or are we gonna play against like the second game against Adrian? Or are we gonna step it up and play better than we've ever played against Adrian? Who knows? But I think this team's got a lot of potential going into the winter break, even with missing 2 defensemen. And coming out of it, you've got Manhattanville twice on the road, January 6th and 7th, who they are starting to get votes for the top 15, but I think you can beat them. I really do. That's a rivalry game, and I know Utica knows that. I know Utica knows that, and I think they'll come hard for that game. And then you have the home and home, or you have the 2 home games stretch against Newman, January 13th and 14th. So that'll be a series. That'll be a decent series. And then you have 2 away games against Lebanon Valley, who we saw last year in the first round of the UCHC playoffs, and 13-0 tells you all you need to know. Well, not 13, but it was up there. It was around double digits. And then a home and away against Nazareth, January 27th, 28th, and then you end with your last 2 home games, at least, or your home regular season games, at least, with February 3rd and 4th, you play King's College in Utica. Then it's a 4-game road stretch playing 2 games in Alvernia University. Then February 22nd would be the first round of the UCHC tournament if Utica makes it. I say if because you never know. And then, obviously, you have your next weekend, that weekend's your second round. The weekend after is your finals. And then you jump to the NCAAs if Utica can make it that far. I don't know. The playoffs are unpredictable. That's why I say if and I don't know. And anything can happen because the playoffs are a different beast. The playoffs can do anything to anybody. I've seen crazier things happen in weirder circumstances. I have. In any sport, not just hockey. I've seen the Rangers go to the Western Conference Finals when they were supposed to lose in the wild card. They weren't even supposed to really be there. They weren't even really supposed to win the wild card, and it was all of a sudden, oh, you're in the Eastern Conference Finals. What? I'm happy, but what? You surprised the Penguins, and you surprised the Hurricanes in 7 each. And you almost took it to Tampa because you took them to 6. Like, really. Anything can happen. So it's one of those things of you never know. I mean, Utica could go on a tear and destroy anything in their path and then run into someone who you underestimate and you get walloped. I don't know. You never know with these things. You truly don't. You don't know what team's going to show up that you play against and what team that's going to show up that you're playing with. You never know. That's why I say that. You don't know how the team's going to look by that point too. You don't know if an injury takes a guy out, or if someone all of a sudden progresses like no tomorrow and all of a sudden takes a huge step forward. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm confident that Utica is going to see at least potentially the UCHC tournament. I know that. They've seen two championships in the past 4 years. 2021 or 1920 and 21-22. So I'll see if they can do it in 22-23, eh? And now this starts. Before I get to the Utica comments, I do want to start the local ranting part of this. So there's a high school in the area. Now, it's in the same county as Utica, so obviously there's that local factor. It's the one that I go to, and they recently did a thing of... They've been having trouble with getting kids to games in the sense of, like, making sure it's them. I guess they had an issue with a football game. I have no clue. I wasn't on that side for that game. I don't know what happened. Apparently I missed a fight. I missed 2 fights, actually, that game. I don't know how I missed them. I'm a big guy for finding that, like, ooh, what's going on? What's the big scoop? I don't know how I missed it, but apparently there was fights. There was opposing students on the other side that... So then they said, all right, you need to be ID'd, and you need to get a ticket from the school. Well, then they said... Well, for hockey and basketball, you need a wristband from a assistant principal, and you need your ID at the gate, and you pay $3 instead of $5. I'd rather pay the $5, not have to waste my time to go get a wristband that I don't really want to wear for the game. And not only that, I don't even really. Why do I need a wristband to go to a hockey game? I managed to talk a little bit with... There was a tournament a couple weeks ago. I don't know if it was 2 or 3 or something like that, but I remember talking with someone who organized the whole... It was a tournament. It was a 4-team tournament. If I'm on that team, that's a loss in my book because you didn't play like you should have won. Nope. But anyways... Just a local ranting thing. It's ridiculous. And why should I have to go get a wristband from an assistant principal when let's say I have something that prevents me from doing so one day. Let's say I can't find an assistant principal when I'm free because what if most of your classes are going from one wing to another because that's how mostly my first 3 years were as a freshman, junior, senior, or a freshman, sophomore, junior, where I was always back and forth. Now, obviously, COVID wrecked my sophomore year, so I wasn't in the building that year, but it would have been all over. My junior year, I was all over. I was one wing to another. There wasn't, and it was always, my schedule worked to the point where when I was in the building, my freshman year, between every period, I was up and down the stairs at least, or for every day, I have 9 periods. I was either going up to the second floor or down to the first floor, probably 6 of those, between 6 of those 9, so 6 out of 8, probably. I don't have my schedule right in front of me or else I could tell you exactly. Sophomore year, obviously, I don't necessarily know exactly what I would have done in terms of up and down and left and right and all over. But junior year, I was all over again. Senior year, this is the only one I've been able to kind of relax because I have study halls, and I'm just like, I can show up to these study halls in the nick of time because, there's not really much to get set for before the class and blah, blah, blah. So I get it. It's easier for, like, a senior to go up to it, to find the time to go to an AP, but freshmen are all, if you're a freshman, up on electives my first couple of years, because at the time, you needed to get a certain amount of electives. I don't think you do anymore because it changed between almost every year I've been here. you needed electives at one point. Now I don't think you necessarily need them. You need, 22, a couple more. It's some of the dumb decisions, but it's hard to, some days you might get caught up, or let's say you're late from like one class and you have to get rushed to another, and that's the only time you would have had really free time. How are you going to get to an AP? And you'd have to do it on a Friday. What if you're not there on a Friday? You have a snow day on a Friday, you're sick on a Friday, something happens. Let's say you get sick and you're down for a week, but you're like, oh, I want to go to the hockey game. Well, I can't because I don't have a wristband. Or people decide like last minute or the day of or Friday night, oh, I want to go to the hockey game. Well, too late now. You're not going to be able to go in as a student. It makes no sense. But anyways, that's my local ranting part of the podcast. There's always one. Always one. Somebody always has to do something that has to be a local rant part. Always. Always, always, always. At least I didn't complain about how all of a sudden it's dumping snow in central New York, but that's normal. That's normal. I live with it at this point. But no, anyways, on to the Duke Comets. They have 2 more games before they hit the Christmas break. Both of them are road games. One of them was today, I think, today or tomorrow. And then the other one was later in the week in Cleveland, or as they were saying, Believeland, or Believeland, whatever. No, I don't know if there's a game tonight. And right now, looking at the Comets, I'm iffy with them. They're not scoring. They don't have the production they have last year. I get it. You lose Zetterlund. You lose Holtz to moving up. Ball goes up, who wasn't really an offensive guy, but still. Ball goes up. You lose DeLeo. DeLeo walks. DeLeo went to San Diego, to the San Diego Gulls, and is now a captain there. You had Gauthier was let walk. He is now elsewhere. I don't know where he is. I never heard of him signing anywhere, as far as I know. Flynn walked. I don't know where Flynn went. I don't know what Flynn's doing at the moment. I was going to say, I'm pulling that up now, actually. But those 2 guys obviously aren't here. You've had the constant up and down of Dawes and Schmidt. Mittens is hurt. You've seen time with Isaac Poulter, who's a guy that's been up and down from the ECHL. And just got sent back down, actually, today to Adirondack. And not only that, you've also had the back and forth of a guy or 2 from the ECHL and back. I mean, they just called up Grasso because he was the leading scorer on the team. And he hasn't looked like he's necessarily settled in yet. And then you have, obviously, I mean, you did keep some of your core components, but there's certain guys that I'm just sitting here looking at going, you're here why? Or you didn't come back why? I mean, Robbie Russo and Riley Walsh aren't producing on the same level they did last year, I don't think. I haven't necessarily seen it in terms of numbers. I haven't looked as of right now, though. At one point, you were losing another defenseman up. Now you aren't. Patrick McGrath, the native fighter, left. AJ Greer, who was a big piece, who was actually lighting it up over in Boston, walked. I don't know why he walked. I don't know why you let him walk. That was a dumb idea. Chase Stillman still isn't here. I think he's still overseas for another year. Irvine walked. Tyler Irvine. Luke Stevens didn't come back to the team. Let's see who else. I mean, defensemen kind of stayed the same. Theo Chardis did walk to Hartford. And you've kind of had a back and forth a little. You've had a shake-up a little bit in the wingers. You've had, obviously, the jump on of, like, Gertstein, who is the resident fighter, also a former Ranger. I just had to note that he's a former Ranger, right? Yep, sure did. And you also have the addition of Hallinan for the full year. Grasso is seeing time up now. Nolan Stevens is here. Dugan has come in. Brian Pinho has come in. Zach Shenshnin, I guarantee I said it wrong every time. Shenshnin? I pick a different pronunciation every time. And Nick Hutchison on the winger side, or on the forward side, and you had the addition of Dylan Blugis on the defensive side. So you have those little additions that haven't necessarily really... I mean, Dugan did produce early, but has kind of slowed down. Nolan Stevens has been on a tear recently. Pinho had a time where he did kind of produce here and there. Gerstein's the fighter. Obviously, Zach S is what I'm going to call him because I can't pronounce the last name. Or Zach, whatever. He has been injured recently. Grasso is the recent call-up that I haven't seen him necessarily slot in yet. Foot is come and go, I'd say. Tice Thompson has a name I haven't heard a lot. Obviously, you've got your leaders here still in Joe Gambardella and the captain, Ryan Schmelzer. Then you have, like, staples that are still here of, like, Arne Talvidi, Samuel LeBurge, Graham Clark, guys like that are still here that are anchors. Vukojevic, Wotherspoon, Grello, Ahotuk. The addition of Nemec, who right now isn't on this paper, or isn't on this thing for some reason. But Nemo, I'll give him props. Smart defenseman. Very, very smart. One of the smartest guys I've seen play here in a while. The scoring isn't here anymore. Scoring isn't here. I don't know what it is. I don't know who's done what. But the scoring isn't happening this year. And I get it. Part of it is because you lost 3 of your top guys in Zetterlund, Holtz, and DeLeo. DeLeo is elsewhere in the AHL producing. You have, obviously, Holtz is up in New Jersey. He's not really doing very much. They don't, from what I'm hearing, Devils fans don't necessarily sound happy with what they're getting out of him. He's still not adjusting to that NHL speed. And Zetterlund's playing Zetterlund hockey. He's playing good hockey. So, there's that. So, Zetterlund's not coming down anytime soon. I don't think Holtz will come down anytime soon, even though he's not playing up to par with what he was expected to play. And our hope was, you got the first-round pick in Chase Stillman, who was last year's first-round pick, and it was like, all right, can he come here? No, still not here. All right. So it's one of those things where you don't have what you want. And then you have the case of goaltending has had ups and downs all year. All year. And it's sad. I mean, Dawes has had his on nights, Dawes has had his off nights. Schmidt has had his on nights, Schmidt has had his off nights. The defense in front of him sometimes won't show up, or the scoring won't show up to bail him out of close games. It's like it's never there. This team can't put everything together, usually, in the right times. But anyways, enough on the comments. We're going to go quick to the New York Rangers, who are on a 6-game win streak after beating the Flyers last night. Oh, I'm so happy we beat the Flyers, number one. And number two, let's go Rangers, because this is a 6-game win streak. And not only that, we ended Marner's 23-game point streak. I'm happy. I know a Leafs fan. I'm happy to just say, hey, history has been made, but you can sit down. And your streak is over. Ours begins. And it seems like the Rangers, after such a long stretch of bad, have all of a sudden said, here's a long stretch of good to make up for that. And I'm glad, because we needed it. I'm so glad that New York is now in a position where it's like, all right, we're good. We're here. We're fine. Everything's fine. We're good. We're rebounding. That's what I want. Because now it feels like we're starting to look again like the team that we were in the wild card and the divisional round. That in terms of strengths. We're starting to look like that team that we can be, and I'm happy. Anyways, that's a high score. Not much else to say. I mean, I just wanted to get this one out quick. And see you later in the week with more stuff. I mean, when the Comets is done with their stuff before Christmas, I will have something out on that, hopefully. I'm going to try to have a full-on Utica College look, a little more in-depth looking at not only the season so far and the season ahead, but also how the guys have done individually and where they could go from here. So, hopefully having that done around Christmas and maybe even like a Christmas podcast or something.